Look in the nearest mirror. No, I am not joking. Look at yourself and ask one simple question. Why are you taking financial advice from someone whose net worth is not even enough to buy a spare tire for my wheelchair? Does that sound offensive? Good, because the truth is never as sweet as the lies the bank tells you when they try to hand you a new credit card. Most of you are running your lives like a circus. You want to be a wolf in the financial markets, but you spend your Sunday nights listening to your uncle, a low-level government clerk, preach about playing it safe and saving pennies. Let me tell you a secret. You cannot learn how to swim from a fish that died on dry land, and you will never learn how to get rich from people whose biggest lifetime achievement is paying off a used sedan after 5 years of grinding. Imagine your miserable daily routine. You wake up at 6, chug a cup of cheap coffee, and crawl through traffic to an office, where your boss is waiting to squeeze every last drop of productivity out of you. You are tired, you are stuck, and you decide to look for a way out. So you go to your parents, your friends, or those self-proclaimed experts on social media. And what do they tell you? Just be patient, honey. Put your money in a savings account where it is safe. Do not dream too big. Congratulations, you just officially enrolled in the permanent poverty course. Taught by the people you love most. They do not have bad intentions. They are just pulling you down into the hole they have been lying in for 40 years. So they do not feel lonely. If you keep doing this, then I am sorry. You are exactly the kind of customer financial institutions love. A submissive fool full of hollow hope. Stop being naive and start looking at the real numbers before you end up broke at 60. Let us talk about the safety trap. This is where 99% of you strangle your own future. Let me reenact a little play that I bet happens in your kitchen every single holiday. Meet Joe, that is me. And my opponent today is the NPC friend, a guy who always wears a faded shirt and holds a bank flyer like it is the Holy Bible. The NPC friend says, "Hey Joe, I just put $50,000 into a savings account. They are paying me 5% interest. It is perfectly safe. I will not lose my principal like those crypto gambles of yours. If I just keep saving, in 20 years I will have a nice little nest egg." I tell him, "Oh, great. Congratulations on signing a contract to voluntarily get poorer. Do you realize that in the last year alone, the price of a decent meal went up 30%. That is inflation. While your bank pays you 5%, and after you pay taxes and fees, the real inflation is eating your purchasing power at the speed of an F1 race car. In 20 years, your savings might buy you a sandwich if you are lucky." Then the NPC friend says, "But my parents said I should buy a house. To live in, that is the only way to be stable. I am taking out a 30-year mortgage, and it takes 2/3 of my salary every month. But at least I own my home." And I tell him, "Wrong. You do not own that house, the bank does. You are just a high-end tenant with the obligation to pay for maintenance and taxes on their behalf. You just chained yourself to a pole for 3 decades. You are too scared to quit your job, too scared to start a business, and too scared to even cough because you might lose the income needed to pay that debt. You call that stability? I call that a voluntary life sentence. That is the trap. The poor people around you are terrified of change, so they teach you how to avoid risk instead of how to manage it. They tell you to be happy with what you have, but what they really mean is, be poor like me so I do not feel like a failure. Look at reality. A fat banker sitting in a climate-controlled office is laughing at you while you sign that mortgage or savings contract. He knows he is using your money to invest in real assets while handing you back the breadcrumbs he calls interest. You are getting your pockets picked. Stop this video right now. I am serious. Get your phone out, open your notes, or find a piece of paper and a pen. If you are not ready to look at these numbers, you are not ready to get out of the gutter. Just turn off the video and go back to listening to your uncle talk about saving change. Are you ready? Let us do a calculation I call the purchasing power massacre. Let us say you are a good little boy by poor people's standards. You have $50,000 and you put it in the bank at 5% interest. You think you are making $2,500 a year. But here is the slap in the face. Real inflation is never the tiny number you see on the news. It is closer to 10 or 12%. Look at the spreadsheet on the screen. On the left, your money in the bank. After 10 years at 5%, you have about $81,000. Sounds good? Now look at the right, the actual cost of goods. With 10% inflation, a house that costs $200,000 today will cost over $500,000 in 10 years. Do you see it? After a decade of backbreaking saving, the gap between you and your dream home did not get smaller. It grew by hundreds of thousands of dollars. You did not get richer, you got systematically poorer. The bank took your money, lent it to a wealthy investor to buy real estate. He made a fortune, and they gave you back a tiny amount of interest that cannot even buy a parking spot anymore. You are funding their wealth with your financial ignorance. Now, let us look at your habits. That $5 designer coffee every morning. It seems like nothing, right? $150 a month, $1,800 a year. If you invested that money into a solid index fund or hard assets at a 15% return, in 25 years, that coffee habit would be worth nearly $500,000. Every sip you take today is a brick in a mansion you will never own. You are literally drinking your future for 15 minutes of caffeine. Do not tell me money is not everything. People who say that usually do not have any. Money is time. Money is freedom. When you throw away $500,000 on junk, you just signed yourself over to your boss for another 10 years of your life. The poor work, get paid, spend it on trash, and save the leftovers that get eaten by inflation. The rich work, invest in assets, and buy back their freedom. The first step to escaping poverty is not making more money. It is a total environmental detox. You must immediately stop sharing your financial plans with people who have never owned $1 million in liquid cash. If you want to be an eagle, stop asking chickens for advice on how to fly. Next, you must pay yourself first. And I do not mean buying a new outfit. You take 30% of every dollar you make and you throw it into hard assets. Hard assets are things that are scarce and cannot be printed into oblivion by any government. Bitcoin, gold, or shares in companies. Do not wait to buy assets. Buy assets and wait. Step 1. Upgrade your own printing press. Instead of spending 4 hours a day watching brain-dead entertainment, spend those 4 hours learning a high-income skill. AI programming, direct response marketing, high-ticket sales, or data analysis. In this era, if you only have a skill that anyone can do, your wage will always be pushed to the bottom. You must become irreplaceable when your income jumps from $3,000 to $10,000 a month. The speed of your wealth building changes the entire game. Step 2. Strangle your liabilities. Sell the car you cannot afford. Move to a cheaper apartment if it saves you an extra $500 a month to invest. The rich live below their means for a long time so they can eventually live in a way no one else can dream of. The poor do the opposite. They try to look rich at the start and pay for it for the rest of their lives. Step 3. Buy tickers, not promises. Stop listening to hot tips from garbage telegram groups. Start learning how to read a balance sheet. Understand economic cycles and why Bitcoin is gaining ground. When you understand the rules of the game, you are no longer afraid of risk. Risk only comes from not knowing what you are doing. Look at your bank app right now. Look at your spending over the last month. What percentage of that actually makes you wealthier in 5 years? If the answer is 0, you are committing financial suicide. Start today, not tomorrow, not next year, right now. Buy your first piece of a real asset, no matter how small. I am done talking. Now the ball is in your court. You can choose to turn off this video. Mumble that the guy in the wheelchair is too harsh, and go back to your safe little bubble. To hear your neighbor talk about the price of groceries. That is the easy path. It is comfortable, it is familiar, and it is guaranteed to lead you to an old age full of regret and struggle. Or you can choose the harder path, the path where you admit you have been a fool, that you have been led by the nose this whole time. You will have to start over, be mocked by the people around you for not being one of the guys anymore. But the prize at the end of that road is actual freedom, something 99% of the crowd out there will never touch. Do not expect the world to be kind to your wallet. The government wants your taxes, the banks want your debt, and the corporations want every cent you earn. Only you can protect yourself. Being born poor is not a crime, but staying poor because you were too lazy to change your mindset is an insult to your own potential. Choose to be a good little boy who stays broke, or choose to be the person who is hated but free. Decide, and do not come looking for me to complain when you are still counting pennies 10 years from now. Get out of here and get to work. We are done.